Bonjour, diehards! Welcome to the undefeated post-weigh-in show. We're talking UFC Paris, and we're taking one final look at these fighters before they step into the octagon. We're seeing if we can squeeze just one extra little tidbit of value out of these lines before we lock those bets in and try to make some money. And to celebrate, headed on to Paris, I have come prepared. I've got my baguettes, I am all set to go, and I have a wonderful bottle of red here to go ahead and get the day started with you. Let's cheers, toast to UFC Paris, everybody. Thank you very much. We're just getting the day started here. Oh, God. There's some cork in that. Oh, my God. That's awful. Why do you people drink that stuff? Oh, my God. Why? We got to wash our mouth out with something a little more our speed. Holy crap. Oh, much better. Much better. Thank you. Let's get into these fights. Now I got to donate that bottle of wine. First fight of the evening. We are talking Stephanie Egger taking on Ailin Perez. Honestly, the weigh-ins were a little bit dull this morning, folks. Everybody made weight, came in on point. Egger, 145. Perez, 144 and a half. Business as usual for Stephanie Egger. Ailin Perez, big smile on her face. That girl is thick. Just the way we like them. Big flex from her. She was feeling herself at the face-offs. These two went nose to nose. Obviously, Stephanie Egger, a bit taller, bit longer, skinnier, lankier. Perez with the thickness advantage, and she was showing off her assets at the end of that face-off. She wanted to make sure everybody knew what she was working with. Now, Quinonez, I'm moving along without giving my bet. I have been in the Egger camp basically all week. Money has been slowly pouring in on Ailin Perez. This show is brought to you by Pub Sports Radio and Superbook Sports. We use Superbook Sports for our lines, and Egger is a minus 245 favorite right now. Plus 205 to come back on Ailin Perez. And it's been dropping. Money is just pouring in on Ailin Perez. She's completely untested. She's got a grappling-heavy game plan. It's exactly what we want to see in the UFC. But for me, I can't get around the fact that I'm not sure she can defend a hip throw. If she can't defend a hip throw, then Stephanie Egger is going to put her on her back and she's going to look minus 500 again. However, if Egger can't get the hip toss, then Ailin Perez probably does just grind her and work her for 15 minutes. So I don't really hate anybody taking the shot at the dog, but I got to see it. I've never seen Ailin Perez face any type of adversity in a fight before. I got to see it before I can put money on her. So maybe a dog or pass from a betting situation, but for me it's a pass or pass. Fireball and popcorn, baby. I'm just going to let this one ride. Quinonez taking on Khalid Taha. Quinonez came in 136, Taha 135, and Quinonez looked intense today on the scales. His eyes were a little sunken in. He looked a little bit off, if I'm being honest, uncomfortable up there. His opponent, however, Khalid Taha, looked jacked. This man is a monster. I would love to see him play a villain in like a budget Marvel or DC series. When he rocks those sunglasses, he reminds me of like a buff little Dr. Hojo. I love it. When they face off, this was intense. I mean, height and reach advantage obviously go to Quinonez, but Khalid Taha got in his face, letting him know what was up. I mean, it was respectful at the end. They were just having a good time. But both guys are amped up and ready to go for this fight. I can't wait. I've been watching this line all week. Khalid Taha has slowly been ticking down. Money just keeps rolling in on Quinonez. And I think I might take the buy low spot on Khalid Taha. And I was looking at Khalid Taha by knockout, Khalid Taha inside the distance. I just think he can handle someone like Quinonez. If you don't have that offensive grappling game to slow down the striking of Khalid Taha or make him question whether or not he can let loose on the feet, I think he'll feel a whole lot more comfortable in this striking game, and then he'll be able to find the chin of Quinonez, something that's been tapped and chipped a couple of times already. At the UFC level, I'm not sure he can hang with these guys, and I'm not sure he can take the power of someone like Khalid Taha. But you got to worry about the submission threat as well, because if this thing does hit the ground, I mean, we saw Khalid Taha arm triangle Bruno Silva. That's not an easy thing to do. So for him to be able to pull that off, I kind of favor inside the distance a little bit more than I do the knockout prop only. I mean, I know the price is a little bit sexier on the KO prop, but if you're getting, plus 275 versus plus 350, 75-cent difference, I'll take the submission to be included instead of just the knockout. Gabriel Miranda taking on Benoit Saint-Denis. We've got Miranda 155.5, Saint-Denis 156. Gabriel Miranda looked good. He was cut up on the scales today. Great shape. Got the stash. Just evil twirl that bad boy. He looked fantastic. Benoit Saint-Denis, stoic, intense, given his flex. As always, dude's a complete wild man. I absolutely love the God of War. They size up pretty well. I'll be honest. I kind of expected Benoit Saint-Denis to have a little bit of a size advantage here in this spot, and he really doesn't. Now, not that that matters. I still think Benoit Saint-Denis' offensive wrestling is going to make the difference here in this fight, and I think he'll be able to take Gabriel Miranda down, stifle that submission offense, and be able to get him out of there at some point, or just grind out a 15-minute decision. The over 1.5 at minus 120 doesn't look half bad to me, but Gabriel Miranda is known for snatching up those guillotines, and Benoit leaves his neck out there. So I'm a little nervous about that because I think that's Gabriel Miranda's win condition. Minus 280 for Benoit Saint-Denis. It's a little steep, but I do think he's an okay parlay piece. He should get the win here. Next up, we got Joaquin Buckley taking on Nassourdine Imavov. Buckley 186, Imavov 186 as well. No issues whatsoever for Buckley. He's a little small for the weight class. We've seen that before. We should just start calling him Joaquin Thickly, though. This guy's got so much muscle on him. And his opponent, Imavov, looked fantastic. I mean, a bit drained up on the scale today, but he's a big guy. You know, Buckley's a small dude for the division. Imavov is a big dude for the division, so not overly surprising that he was a little drained headed into the face-offs. Big size difference. When they face off, I mean, Buckley was doing the show him your back thing where he wasn't giving him the respect until he was just right there for the face-offs and then turned around to meet him. Buckley's got that little dog syndrome, man. He is not backing down. He's got the kind of pop on his punches that makes you worry, and he's showing off some improved grappling that he could cause some problems. He's a live underdog in this spot, I'll be honest. Minus 255 for Nassourdine Imavov, plus 215 for Joaquin Buckley. I still side with the favorite. I think Nassourdine Imavov should be able to get this one done, but I don't know that it's necessarily going to be easy, and you could be sweating that minus 255, especially in round 3, if Buckley's still throwing hammers and Imavov is slowing down. Michael Figlak taking on Ziam. 156 for both guys. No issues whatsoever for Figlak. Very calm, very solid flex on the scales today. Ziam looked a little bit nervous. I mean, he got cut from the organization and brought back specifically for this fight because they needed some talent here in the department that they're hanging out at. He looked a little nervous on the scale today. His cheeks are popping out. You know, tall, skinny guy. You always got to wonder about that weight cut. Slight size advantage not a slight size advantage, a decent size advantage for Ziam. He's much taller, much leaner. Figlak, however, started talking to him immediately. This was a good, intense face-off. I like this one. It's another spot where, you know, all week I've been saying maybe dog or pass betting, and I'm kind of shifting over to favorite or pass. Like, I don't like Ziam particularly. I think this is going to be relatively equal striking, and then the grappling difference is really what makes this thing up. I worry about Ziam's improved takedown defense and Michael Figlak's ability to get the fight to the ground. But if he does get the fight to the ground, it's essentially over. I can see Michael Figlak either just grinding out rounds and staying on top without any type of danger coming back the other way, or potentially ground and pound or submission. We've seen Firaz just doesn't know what to do on the mat. So you've got an undefeated prospect coming up here against a guy that got dropped and re-signed by the UFC. Like, Firaz is back up against the wall here. I don't mind anybody taking the shot. I can understand why you would take the shot on the guy with UFC caliber experience, but that gaping hole that he's got in his ground game, I can't get around that. I think I'm going to pick the favorite, Michael Figlak, to go ahead and get the win, but it's not one that I'm super interested in from a betting perspective. I don't know. Throw him in a parlay maybe or something, but yeah, I don't know. That one makes me uncomfortable. Next up, we got Abusupiyan Magomedov taking on Dustin Stoltzfus. We got both guys making 186 on the dot here for this fight. No issues from Abu. Looked good. Dustin Stoltzfus looked jacked as always. That guy is another one of these muscle monsters up there. He looked a little bit uncomfortable on the scale today. Slight size advantage for my guy Magomed. You guys know what happened here. I brought out the hammer. I think Magomed is a horrible matchup for Dustin Stoltzfus. I think Stoltzfus is a guy who has struggled with, you know, low-end UFC caliber opponents. He's shown some good things against some, you know, mid-tier UFC caliber opponents. So I do think he's underrated. I do think he can win us a couple fights at dog odds sometimes. I just don't think this is the one. I think Magomedov is a bad matchup for him. And I laid the juice. I got minus 265 earlier in the week. He's minus 275 now. But I've got a big hammer on this guy to win 2 units. I didn't want to take the inside the distance because he could grind out a 15-minute win. We've seen Dustin make it to the 3rd round and to the decisions before. But I do expect Magomedov to at some point be able to catch Dustin Stoltzfus. I think it's going to be a knockout. Honestly, I think it's going to be a body shot knockout. Like, have him backing up against the fence and then just rip at the ribs as soon as he's got him covering up for his head or something like that. I'm expecting Magomedov to get a big win on Saturday. Charles Jourdain taking on Nathaniel Wood. Jourdain made 145.5. Wood made 146. Big old cheesy smile on Charles Jourdain's face. You gotta love it. You got Nathaniel Wood, who's filling out at 145. He has looked like he's added some muscle. He's a bit wider than Charles Jourdain is, and it seems like he's taking advantage of those extra 10 pounds. This was a good face-off. Slight size advantage here for Jourdain, or a decent size advantage for Jourdain, actually. I did go ahead and get minus 140 on Charles Jourdain. He's minus 150 now, and I decided to hit that round 3 sprinkle. You know, Superbook Sports is hanging a plus 1,300 on that round 3. 13-1, baby, for him to win in round 3. We have seen Nathaniel Wood slow down over the course of a fight, especially when he gets into a back-and-forth brawl, and we know that's what Charles Jourdain forces essentially in every single fight. Bigger guys have been wilting under the power of Charles Jourdain in the second and the third rounds. I wonder if Nathaniel Wood is going to be able to do that as well. If Charles Jourdain can hurt these bigger guys, I mean, granted, the speed, I think, is going to be a big question mark here. Nathaniel Wood could just be more technical and be faster, and that could be enough to carry him here in this fight. But I'm kind of banking on the hometown advantage here. A guy named Jourdain, a guy from Canada, a guy who's got that French-Canadian background. Like, I'm kind of expecting him to get the nod from the judges if anybody's going to get this in a close fight. However, I also think Jourdain can just finish Nathaniel Wood. It's happened multiple times before. Wood has been finished in all of his professional losses. 3 of those 4 have been in the third round specifically. So, got to take the stab on Charles Jourdain round 3. We've seen what that kid can do late in a fight, so let's cash a big ticket there on that one. Jarno Errens taking on William Gomis. We've got both guys at 146. And Errens looked wiped on the scale, I'll be honest. He had his hands on his hips. He looks like he did not want to be there. That looked like it was a bit of a tough cut for him. Now, his opponent, William Gomis, was feeling himself. He's smiling. He's sticking his lips out. Big flex. Like, he looks like he's having the time of his life up there. These guys size up pretty dang well. I mean, we're talking nose to nose, like same exact height here. Errens was intense, though. Like, Gomis was playing. He was having a good time. He was playing to the crowd, but Errens was, like, ready to kill him, man. This is one of those spots where I'm like, oh, bae. Like, if you're coming in here, looking past your opponent, playing around, having a good time for your UFC debut, your opponent is the guy that's got the chip on his shoulder, feeling disrespected, looking for that validation, hungry. That makes me wonder about the dog a little bit. If the favorite is coming in so lackadaisical, I don't know these guys very well. I'll be completely upfront and honest with you guys about that. Both of them are making their UFC debut. I'm not sure either of them are UFC caliber already. William Gomis trains with the main eventer, Gane, and that's the reason he got on this card. That's the reason he's on the main card. He's a local flavor type of guy. He's low volume. He's got decent ground and pound, but that's about it. If Jarno Errens has made improvements in his grappling, this fight is going to be very close. If Jarno Errens has made improvements in his grappling and keeps this a striking match, he could have the advantage. Like, this is a fight that I don't feel comfortable with, and even though I think William Gomis should be able to get this thing to the mat and at some point pound out Jarno Errens, don't be surprised if Errens just catches him on the feet or just straight up outworks him. Like, this is a low-level fight. I don't feel great about it. I'm not laying the minus 215. I will pick Gomis to get the win, but I don't blame anybody taking the dog shot on Jarno Errens in this spot. There's just too many questions. Next up, Nasrat Haqparast taking on John Makdessi. Haqparast 155, Makdessi 154.5. Business as usual for Nasrat Haqparast. No real issues on the scales today. John Makdessi looked bored, if I'm being honest. Like, bored. Blanket. You know, no emotion on his face whatsoever. No issue making weight. This was a solid, intense face-off. You've got Nasrat Haqparast screaming in the face of John Makdessi. Makdessi was stoic. He was silent. Like, there's bad blood here in this spot. We know that, right? Former training partners. John Makdessi feels like he's been disrespected here in this spot. And now we've got a spot where I feel like Makdessi has got the mental advantage over Nasrat Haqparast. The way he was just, like, locked in on Nasrat, where Nasrat felt the need to, like, get amped up and scream in his face and bounce around. Like, John Makdessi was just looking at it like, you know, there's a war coming. You know, and the way he fought his last fight, I talked about this. I've disrespected John Makdessi before. I felt like this was a dogger pass spot from a betting perspective. But I'm picking Nasrat Haqparast to get the win. Like, looking at the body language of these guys, it's one of those spots where, like, one guy knows. You know, these guys have trained before. These guys have been in the gym together before. One of these guys knows. The other guy thinks. And it kind of feels like John Makdessi knows. Like, that's That's the tinfoil hat talking right there, folks. But John Makdessi's demeanor at this weigh-in, at this face-off, like, I feel like he's out for blood here in this spot. Nasrat is making it look like he's the man and he's going to get this easy, but John Makdessi is dialed in. I'm a little bit tempted on that dog money. I said I felt like this fight was going to potentially go to a split decision, and I might play the split decision prop. If I believe that that's how close this fight is going to be, then plus 195 is value. I should be backing the dog if I think that's the case. So I may be adding John Makdessi at plus 195 to my betting card this week. That's all it comes down to, folks. All right. Next up, you've got Alessio Di Chirico taking on Roman Haqparast. Both guys made 186, and no video for some reason of Alessio Di Chirico. I don't know if it like cut out or something when he was there, but I missed him on the scales this morning. His opponent, Roman Haqparast, looked fantastic. Abs for days. The kid's in great shape. He's got the curly-headed fuck hair going on. He could fit in there in the Askren family tree. Alessio looked great at the face-offs, though. This is where, like, I can't say what he looked like on the scale this morning, but at the ceremonial weigh-ins, the face-offs, he looked fine. He looked fantastic. So no issues really there. It was a bit uncomfortable, though. Slight size advantage for Roman Haqparast, but both these guys are a little anticlimactic, I guess. It was a little silent. It was a little stoic. Nobody really doing much of anything. Just get me out of here. Shake hands. Let's fight. So, that's the kind of guys we're dealing with here. We officially have a line flip. Roman Haqparast is a guy that's been the underdog all week, and it's been all Haqparast love. All week, everybody piling in on Roman Haqparast, and I get it. He's got a decent striking advantage here. He's going to have a speed advantage. He's going to have a volume advantage. Alessio Di Chirico has been known for slowing down in these fights and being a pot shotter, just one shot at a time, not enough volume, Sam Alvey style. But one thing we haven't seen in a long time is Alessio's grappling ability, and we've seen that Haqparast is absolutely a fish out of water when he's on his back. So if Alessio goes back to that grappling, he's got major upside here in this fight. So it's a spot that I don't want to put my money on because it all comes down to game plan. You remember when we all thought Sean Strickland was going to grapple? Yeah, I'm not doing that here with Alessio, because Alessio could just come out and pot shot himself to a losing decision, slow, painful death. Maybe his chin is gone. Maybe he gets cracked by Roman Haqparast. I don't know. But either way, it's a spot that I really just don't feel good about, and I don't know the game plan of Alessio, so I'm just going to steer completely off this thing. I would be a little, if I had to make a bet, if I got to make a pick, I'm going to pick Alessio. I'm going to say I think Alessio gets back to his grappling roots, mixes in the takedowns, because we've seen that's been such a ginormous hole in Roman Haqparast's game. I think he goes to that at some point and manages to go ahead and get the win here, but I don't expect this fight to be very impressive on either side. Marvin Vettori and Robert Whittaker in your co-main event. Both guys made 186. Marvin Vettori is absolutely jacked. This kid, I love this guy. He is so big. Looked fantastic on the scales today. He always does. Robert Whittaker, relaxed. No issues. Classic Rob. He doesn't let this kind of stuff faze him. And speaking of not letting it faze him, Marvin Vettori got in his face at the weigh-ins. He was talking immediately. He's amped up. Like, I love the energy this kid brings. But Whittaker, that gives no fucks attitude. Blank face, just smiling back at this kid like, kid, sit down. Like, Rob was the champ. Rob has fought all the killers in this weight division with no issues. He's taken the best punches anybody had to offer with no issues. And he just comes in here thinking Marvin Vettori is underestimating him. He's got that quiet confidence going on. I love to see that kind of thing. So honestly, I loved both sides of the face-off on this one. If you're looking for that fire from Vettori, you got it. If you're looking for that classic happy-go-lucky Robert Whittaker, you got it. He wasn't fazed one bit here. It was pretty hilarious. I am extremely tempted on Marvin Vettori, though. At the end of the day, I'm extremely tempted. He does have a size advantage in this spot. I mean, we saw him fight Paulo Costa, and the size difference there was negligible up at 205, the way he filled out. He's bigger than Robert Whittaker. He's bigger than Yoel Romero was. Like, we talk about the wrestling of Robert Whittaker, but he's at a size disadvantage here in this spot. He may legitimately be at a point where he could get out-muscled by somebody. It could happen. Now, Robert Whittaker does have that jab. He's got that great footwork. Like, he could play the anti-game and stay away from the wrestling of Marvin Vettori and just kind of pick him apart as he comes in, play the counter-striker. And honestly, I think he probably does. But at the end of the day, I think Marvin Vettori, he's from the area-ish, right? Like, he's Italian. He might get some rub from the judges here in this spot, and if he gets the grappling going at all, if he ends up on top in some of these wrestling exchanges, he'll grind some clock off. He'll get some time with some points on the judges' scorecards. The crowd will go nuts for him. I think this fight is going all 15 minutes. I'll say that. I do think it's going to decision. I don't expect a finish from anybody here. The over 2.5 is minus 290. That's a bit steep, but at the same time, the durability of both these guys is something that you kind of got to rely on. Marvin hasn't shown himself to be a finisher, so even if I do have slight questions about Robert Whittaker's chin at this stage of his career, I don't think Vettori's the guy to crack him. Even if he does crack him, he's probably going to crack him and then take a double leg and grind him out instead of finishing him with punches. So I think this thing goes all 15 minutes. I don't mind the over. Maybe that's a parlay piece. I know a lot of people are going on Robert Whittaker by decision at even money. I don't hate that at all. I'll be honest with you. That's not a bad bet whatsoever. I would be looking a little bit towards the Marvin Vettori by decision types of things. Take that big juicy shot. You guys know that's how I like to play the game. But by decision is only plus 300. Moneyline is plus 185. I might just play the money line at that point if I'm going to play Marvin Vettori, but I might also be looking at the split decision prop because that thing is going to be sexy for this fight. I think it's going to be a close fight, and I really think it could go either way. Marvin Vettori by split. You know what? Bear with me. Let's just see what that is real quick. Let's imagine for a second that I had a moment to pull up, a number and figure out what Marvin Vettori by split decision was going to be. So Marvin Vettori by split decision is 12-1. I don't know. That might get a little sprinkle because if the fight's close and he gets that hometown rub, you never know what's going to happen here. Literally, we have never had a fight in Paris before, so we do not know what these judges look like. We do not know who they're bringing over to put on these shows. It could be awful judging. It could be hometown crooked judging. It could be amazing, crystal clear, perfect. They get every fight right. We simply have no idea. So take it with a grain of salt. Marvin Vettori, I think he's more live than people are giving him credit for. For anybody wondering, all the love has been on Marvin Vettori that I've seen. All the love has been on Whittaker that I've seen online all week. All the bettors, all the gamblers, everybody is on the Reaper this week. However, that line did tick down from plus 190 to plus 185. So the respected money at some point came in on Marvin Vettori. So something to keep in mind there. Main event time, folks. We've got Ciryl Gane taking on Tuivasa. Chiseled Ciryl Gane on the scale today, 247 pounds. I don't even know why they bother, right? Because he never tips at 265. He looks like he should tip the scale at 265, but he doesn't. Dude's got some room to wiggle. Relaxed, no issues. Tuivasa, on the other hand, 266. He literally is the heaviest you can weigh in for an MMA fight in the UFC. 266 pounds. This is a big old boy. Classic Tuivasa, throwing up the W's when he's up there on the scales. This was the classic Tuivasa pose. He likes to spread those arms wide and look at his opponents. Ciryl Gane is definitely bigger, taller, longer, but Tuivasa is thicker. I noticed this when they did that first face-off in Paris. They did some promotional material for it, and I was like, man, I expect Gane to just look huge in the cage. What you don't expect is that Tuivasa is 2 Ciryl Ganes wide. That extra 20 pounds that Tuivasa is carrying around, it ain't just fat. This dude is 2 of me. If you stand me shoulder to shoulder, that's how big Tuivasa is. So, yeah, Gane is taller, but he's not bigger. Tuivasa is the thicker, heavier man here in this spot. I love this fight. This is going to be so much fun. It's going to be a cat and mouse game. Ciryl Gane looking to do what he does, strike without being hit back, and then he's going to dance his way around. We're going to look for Tuivasa to chip away at the legs. We're going to look at Tai to land a big bomb at some point. That's what it comes down to. It's going to be who lands better, harder, deeper in the fight. And honestly, the only thing I'm really looking at in this spot would be the over 2.5 from a betting perspective. It's all the way to minus 125 now. And I think just because of the way Ciryl Gane fights, that's probably how this fight goes. Ciryl Gane does have a decent wrestling advantage probably in this spot. He's got those ankle locks, so it could finish early. Tuivasa could finish early because that's what he does. If you give him an opportunity, he'll definitely take advantage of it. You know, my co-host Dan Tom gave a gorgeous breakdown of this fight on Monday, and he talked about Tai Tuivasa. He is plus 450 now at this spot. Maybe I'll just take a half unit stab for the culture. You know, like, we all want to see a shoey in Paris. It would be a life's dream to have Tai Tuivasa get a crack at UFC gold. Like, that would just be fantastic. I do think that probably at the end of the day, Ciryl Gane is the rightful favorite. He probably does stick and move his way to a win. Maybe he cracks Tai and finishes him with body shots or an ankle lock late in this fight once he slows down. But I do think the over 2.5 is a half decent look. If it goes under 2.5, it's probably because Tai decided this fight ain't going long and went in there looking for a knockout early. But he's also showed a decent bit of patience in some of his fights. It's not really until his opponents start swinging wild that he engages in those types of wild swinging flurries. So if Ciryl Gane's in the driver's seat, this thing goes over 2.5, and minus 125 is not a bad price tag on that. But I'm extremely tempted, because I'm a degenerate, to take a little bet on the dog. That's it, folks. That is the undefeated post weigh-in show. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Do yourself a favor. Go get some Fireball, because red wine sucks and it tastes awful. I hope you cash all the tickets. I hope we make piles of money. I'm going to be dark for this fight. It's a morning fight. Remember, we're doing the undefeated post weigh-in show early. Weigh-ins were early. We're in Paris, France. This is a morning pay-per-view card, or not pay-per-view, it's a morning fight card. And because of that, I'm actually going to have some other things that I'm dealing with. I'm going to go dark on social media for Saturday. I will catch up on these fights Saturday night, and then you'll get all my reactions and tweets and things like that in the evening once I'm actually on board. So don't be shocked if you don't see my reactions or anything like that live during the fights. Hopefully a good weekend. Hopefully we stack some cash. We've had a good couple back-to-back weeks of Contender Series. We got some bullets back in our clip. So let's go ahead and keep this thing going. Good luck from Paris, everybody. Have a great day. Let's roll!